Sorry. Alright. Better position there a little bit. Let's get a little bit closer. Alright, hey. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm thinking splash some cold water on my face. And then I realize I'm reading an article about cold water. Ice cold water. Well, bunny trail coming up before I even start. What else is new? Yeah, I really honestly believe that I've basically still alive because of cold water, fresh water. When I'm exhausted, beat beyond measure and beyond, just push myself, I take a shower summer, just to refresh myself, and all these years later I find out about electricity and cold water. So we'll talk about that. Yeah, one of my readers, subscribers, wrote in and commented on the shofar video, and it's nice to be appreciated. And it made me think about how many years I've been, doing this, and pretty much a lot of thankless years, and hopefully that's changing a wee bit. When you're driving, have a bottle of water. When I push myself to the limit and beyond, I will think nothing if I just did it actually there. Out of habit, take a sip, and it's better than dying. It's better than killing everybody in the car with you. Bottle of water, washcloth. Here's my do-rag, okay? Just bunch that thing up so it, puddle it up. Oops. Okay, I got carried away. Get it wet. Use it as a dish rag, whatever. But in this case, just slap it on. Hope there's nothing behind me that'll blow up if it gets wet. Speaking of blowing up, explosions, there was a heck of a boom this morning. Very, very loud. And I thought, I was in the bathroom and I was like, man, whoa, what is it? What is it, Kind of sounded like something just slammed into the roof of the house. So my phone was off charging, and I got the tablet to go out and take pictures of whatever it was and assess the damage. That's exactly what it sounded like. 'Cause it like the whole house went, compression. And there was no echo, nothing. So I went out and I walked all around. There was nothing, but on the north side of the house there, funny, there's a hole about yay big, and you can look down in there. Water's been draining down there for quite a while, or it just happened, or maybe the boom, I don't know, caused it to collapse down in there. Might have a cave out here. I was looking yesterday. I was looking out across the way, and it looks like why is that big depression out there with no pond in it? Makes no sense with the heavy rains we've gotten. So the pond out here fills in. A friend of mine told me when we moved here, he said, you wait until there's a heavy, heavy, heavy rain, and then you go out and look for air bubbles. That'll tell you where the caves are. So, anyway, water and electricity. Well, water is electricity. Water is electrical. Every time that I have taken a shower, and in the summertime when I'm wiped out, I'll tell you, think nothing of it. Just go in, rinse off. Who needs a towel, It's just wash and wear. It doesn't say anything about drying. So I'll go in and just get wet. But the instant you connect to water coming out of the tap, from the well, you're grounded. You're grounding, you're earthing, and it's rejuvenating, it's refreshing. Now, if you get a shower head with really tiny holes that creates almost a mist, a real fine jet, that is creating what is called the Leonard effect, Lenard, from the scientists that, discovered the phenomenon. Generates negative ions. Negative ions are powerful. I've told the story before. Russian Olympic hockey team was training under negative ions, and it increases your speed, your reaction time 300%, your stamina, everything. So the Olympic Committee knew it. It wasn't illegal. They weren't doing steroids. It was natural. Well, so the U.S. government got wise to it and stepped in, and this was when it was in, I think, New York or somewhere, Canada, New York. Anyway, it was the year that the United States hockey team won a gold medal. Wow, the United States hockey team won a gold medal. What heroes. What a wonderful thing for America. Well, when you hear as Paul Harvey would say, the rest of the story, you won't be so proud of it. The United States government and or the hockey team, whatever, I think it was the government, in the Russian training facility, they put in positive ion generators. So they flooded, the Russian hockey team was hammered, flooded, inundated with positive ions the whole time they were in there, living, training, breathing, eating, sleeping, the whole 9 yards. So, or maybe it was just in the training facility, I don't know, but anyway, they lost. So I could see it not being wrong to train under negative ions, but the idea of sabotaging, deliberately, knowingly sabotaging your opponent's capabilities, I think is kind of tacky. So anyway, negative ions, Leonard effect. This is why when you're near a waterfall, you feel great, okay? When you're a stream, a rocky stream, all the splashing and jostling, you just read about it and you feel good. Okay, that is because number one, it's structuring the water. Two, it's creating negative ions. Okay, ocean. When you're at the ocean, well, when you go to the ocean, you're walking barefoot in wet sand. Number one, water is conducting electricity to earth to ground. You're grounding. Two, it's salt water, so it's even more effective at grounding, conducting electricity. Three, if you're near anywhere where there's waves coming in at all and being splashed, like on a rocky place, you're getting a Leonard effect. Mist. And you're inhaling that. I knew a gal that told me that, she went to the ocean, and within 2 to 3 days, she looked 10, 15 years younger. It just changed the skin and changed the tone and, grounding, of course, and going barefoot and all that. So it was mainly because of grounding. Well, grounding in the salts. And salt is negative, it generates negative ions too. So you got the Leonard effect at the ocean. You've got grounding, earthing. You've got the Leonard effect. You have the salt. Salt generates negative ions. I don't know. I'm losing track of them all. So it's just like and the two, like salt is the electrolyte of the battery. So when you're near an ocean, you have that electrical capacity there too. What in the world? My ear. I don't know why I wear these, but I'm used to it. I can hear myself. It's the echoing. That's where the rabbit trails come from. It's the bouncing from one side of my skull to the other. Oh, the heaters are going to pass me out. So Leonard effect generates negative ions. Salt lamps. Salt. Inhaling salt generates negative ions, or it puts off negative ions. Salt pipe is powerful. I would, when I first started using them, and this was just a vitamin bottle with some salt in it, I poke holes in the bottom with a push pin, corn cob skewer, like a white plastic vitamin bottle, and put salt in, about that much salt. And I would lay down in bed, and I'd put it in the crook of my arm, and I'd inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale. And every time, virtually every time, I would stop breathing. Why? That's insane, right? That's dangerous. No, it's just your breathing, your lungs are a parasympathetic. You don't have to tell your lungs to work. They just work as needed. Well, in 3 to 4 breaths, I will have so much negative charge in my lungs and blood, and so much that results in oxygenation, that there's no need for my lungs to work because there's enough oxygen. And that's the best I can figure, and I think it's true. It's happened to me many, many times. Inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, inhale, exhale, and then, oh, okay, time to breathe again. And then I wake up. Because I've fallen asleep, too, in that three or four breaths. I'm asleep. I've dozed off enough that, I'm just, passed out. So, okay, water, grounding, deep water. The deeper the water, the deeper the ground. The Ozark Plateau is on the craton. The craton goes down to the mantle. It's 120 miles thick. That is why there are so many tornadoes. Look at it. There's a satellite map. I should pull it up here. I'll do that one of these days. I've showed it before on my Maps of the Ozark Plateau series. But you can pull it up. It's, tornado tracks, satellite, quote unquote, satellite tornado tracks of tornadoes, and they're mostly straight lines. And I've said before, my son has pointed out that, Dad, they have a lifespan of about 45 minutes. They don't go past 45 minutes. Why is that? Because there's only a certain amount of voltage that can be dispelled, before the energy is balanced out. You have earth ground. Earth is negative. Ionosphere is positive. When you have a buildup of disparity, then that's when you have thunderstorms and tornadoes. It's electrical discharging. So, and the tornado is a sheath vortex plasma discharge of massive amounts of electricity that were built up because we're not using it. If we would use it, wouldn't have any tornadoes. So. Yeah, sounds like posts here, but I'll stand up. That's what I'll do. Hang on. I was right, but who cares? Not expecting anything really, big package or anything. The battery charger came, the electrical device came, last week. I still haven't put it together because I did get some screwdrivers, so when I run across them, I'll put it together. They've eliminated the problem of cross-threading in so many devices that I've gotten lately, Don't have to worry about cross-threading. There's no threads. You have a bolt with threads, but the hole that it goes into has no threads, so kind of irritating. All right. So, cold, deep water craton, 120 miles thick. Rest of the crust, not so. West of the Rockies, I don't know. They say most of the Earth's crust is 60 miles. I would not be surprised if west of the Rockies it's a lot less than that before it hits the magma chambers of Yellowstone and whatnot. So, personal conjecture, but boy, I'll tell you what, most of my big picture, oh my God, wake up in the middle of the night and go like, no, and like, yeah, you look at the back of the tapestry long enough and you can get a good idea of what the front of it looks like. So, and that's one of them. Another one is springs. Where does this water come from? It's ice cold. If it's going down where it's hot, why is it so cold? I mean, there's a place, I think it's in Mexico, a cave. You have to wear a suit with either some kind of coolant in it or ice, and you have a span of half an hour. It's like diving, you go down into the water, you have a limited amount of oxygen. Well, you have a limited amount of cooling because it's 130 plus degrees, and it's like it's alive. It's almost like Narnia. I don't know if you've ever seen this, but there are crystals there. There's crystals. Oh, crystals are demonic, Who grows the darn things, Anyway, down there, in this cave, these crystals are like 30 feet. They're 6 foot diameter, 30 feet, and it's 130, 150, 200, maybe it's 230 degrees, I don't know. But they have these special suits so they can go down there, and they can only be in there for like a matter of 15 minutes to a half an hour. So why are these springs cold? How deep do they go? Like I said, rivers that come from springs so deep and water so cold that droughts do not affect them. Now get this in your mind, okay? Let me do the old number of listen in here, people, hear and listen, okay? Listen and hear and listen. You cannot grow food without water. You cannot stay alive without water, okay? There are several rules of survival. I haven't harped on these for a while. I haven't done them on this any time in the recent past. Been many, many, many months since I've done it on any of my videos. Survival is a rule of threes, okay? People get lost in the mountains and go, oh, I gotta eat, I gotta have food. Nope, you don't need food. You don't need food. You're not gonna starve to death for 3 weeks, okay? I gotta have water. You gotta have water, but that's not your most important thing. You're not gonna die from dehydration for 3 days plus, or even longer. Okay, not your main concern. Okay, what you do need is within 3 hours, survival's a rule of threes, within 3 hours you need shelter. Don't care if it's desert, mountains, you gotta have shelter from the sun, or you gotta have shelter from the cold, from the heat or the cold. You need shelter, and you only got 3 hours or so to find that and secure that if you're in a survival situation. And then, of course, 3 minutes, without air. If it's polluted, you need a gas mask or a filter or, some kind of thing. But here's the kicker, is you can only last 3 seconds without hope. And that's what I want to, I've always tried to give to people is hope, because there's just too little of it. Oh, there's no hope. Where it's hopeless. Oh, they're trying to put that across to people. That's why so many websites, so many YouTube channels, so many, speakers, and some of them don't do it intentionally, but basically they're controlled by the enemy. They're useful idiots. Alex Jones. Well, how many times does he talk about the Illuminati, or well, he does that, but about the Jewish control of it? Never. He's controlled opposition. They say in the protocols of the illumined elders of Zion, the Illuminati. Read them. Pretty simple, pretty clear. They tell you exactly what they're going to do, and one is we will control all opposition. Pretty much so. Or at least make the serious attempt to, and that's one case. He's basically a CIA Mossad asset. So I listened to him a lot, and then I was like, it's all negative. It's all fear-monger. It's all, we got to rise up. We got to revolt. We got to do this. We got to stand up to him. We got to fight him. Revolution. They say you want a revolution. Well, Okay, so listen and hear and listen. Look at me. Focus. Stop thinking. Stop what you're doing. Don't be thinking about something else. Don't be thinking about what I'm saying or what you want to say to me, or you're going to write comment section, or what you're doing for lunch or whatever. Don't think. Don't be talking. Listen. Water is absolutely key. Water is absolutely critical. Without water, in 3 days, you're going to die. Without safe, secure Water. Okay? Critical. Without water, you're not going to grow any food. And if you don't want to grow your own food, if you don't have the plans to grow your own food, you're toast. You know, in my poem, in Alas Babylon, and I'm going to read my book here shortly, start it anyway. It's not that long, it's just an outline, but it's important. But in there I said, you know, the war we fought for freedom 200 years ago dragged on for 8 long, dark years. Hunger pangs did many know. You know, I've got my 72-hour bug-out kit with my 3 candy bars. You know, I've got my 1 year supply of food. Well, people get out, you know, they're out of work, and suddenly their year of food is gone in 3 months, 6 months. Doggone, I thought we had a year's supply of food. They sold us a year's supply of food. They sold you some food and told you it was a year's supply of food, but, you know, in a situation, was it for 2 people or 4 people, or was it for 10 people, you know? How much do you really eat, you know? Storage food ain't going to cut it. Hunger pangs did many know. Meat on the hoof and crops on the ground. Storage food, unless our storage food abound, and that is meat upon the hoof and crops within the ground. Okay? Will never last the coming wrath unless our storage food abound. That's it. Okay, what is the best form of food storage? Is it dehydrated? Is it smoked? I read one comment and it cracked me up. You know, with a good smokehouse, you can preserve meat for 6 months. And I'm like, yeah, right. You put anybody there in the smokehouse, like, just one more slide, you know, it's gone. You know. Anyway, you put a big lock on it, a really, really good lock. And it's got to be smell proof too, because that'll drive you crazy. So anyway, but you know, you got dehydration, canning, fermenting, which is good. Fermenting is one of your best because it doesn't need refrigeration. You got a spring house where you can cool it. That's an old technology, but it's simple. You can hold your food at 32 degrees with a spring house. That means you have a little trickling spring through running across a stone floor, well insulated. Boom, you got a spring house, 32 degrees storage, and a deep pit in it with water in it for milk, you know, milk jugs and stuff. Anyway, all of those forms of food preservation are they, which one is the best? Pulse is awesome, you know, pemmican, things that last forever. It's great. A pyramid, you know, where did they get all these ancient grains from? Spelt, quinoa, kamut. Oh my word, kamut, magical stuff, you know. I mean, I hate to use that word, but, you know, mystical, magical, miraculous. You know, we were going to the expos that year, 99, and we would get green kamut in little canisters, you know, and mix it up. And my daughter Susie would mix every up, little cup, hand it to us, you know, everybody that was there, you know. And I had come in one day, and it was I had worked hard, it was hot, whatever, and my head was just down on my chest. I was passed out, cold. Tap, tap. Here, Dad. I drank it, slammed it down, about 2 ounces, dropped my head back down on my chest to go back to sleep. And as by the time my chin hit my chest, you know, it was like this. Wide awake, eyes wide open. I mean, you know, like wide awake, alert, felt great. In a matter of about that amount of space, about 1 second, my head came up, and I was just like, okay, what's next? Let's get to work. You know, I mean, phenomenal stuff. Oh, wow. So, preserved into what? The Great Pyramid, or in the pyramids. That's where they found this stuff. Still alive and powerful after a few thousand years. So anyway, cold water. Where does this water come from? That's my question. That's just a question I'm asking. I'm not saying I really believe that, but I'm wondering if the water comes from Antarctica. They say there's tunnels that come up from South America into New Mexico. You know, Grand Canyon tunnels. This boom I heard out here, I'm like, the whole house kind of shook, and I was like, I went out there and I see this hole in the ground, and I'm like, we have a little, alien explosion down there in one of the underground cities. I'm not that far from Springfield. Those tunnels run forever. I don't know, little gas explosion or a little firefight down there. A flashbang, somebody popped a flashbang grenade. I don't know. And it was weird because I saw nothing outside, nothing. The only thing I saw was that hole in the ground. Kind of weird. All right, so I'm going to read this. The magical Blue Spring empties into the Current River, Shannon County, Missouri. Now, this should go without saying. This should be obvious. A really nice place to live if you're wanting to move to the Ozark Plateau would be where? Downstream, as close as possible to one of these springs. There's 20 of them. So you got 20 choices and this is just large, really large springs that we're talking. Springs are rated in 8 magnitudes. First magnitude, magnitude 1, is over 100 cubic feet per minute. Second, CFM, whatever. I'm sorry. Look it up. 100. And then the next one is 10 to 100, and the next one is 1 to 10, 1/10 to 1, in that. So there's 8, maybe 9, but I know there's 8 magnitudes of springs. Well, the only 3 magnitudes that they keep track of, because there's when you get past the 3rd magnitude, there's maybe hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of them, maybe thousands. And then when you get back to the next magnitude, who knows, hundreds of thousands. And you get to the next magnitude, millions. I've told the story where Ben Zitting, the guy that found our property for us, and he sells, or did sell, land owner finance, but there's a big oak tree, spring coming out of it, down a little rock line creek bed to a pond, beautiful spring-fed pond. Right now there's a property for sale in Cedar County, not far from where we live, that has a pond right in the middle of it, and on the Google snapshot, it is bright blue, which means spring-fed, most likely, I would say. When they're brown, it's just seasonal runoff, or they can be, the color could be there a little bit, but and to go back, I didn't do that, but to go back in time and look at that now, if it's always blue, it's spring-fed. If you see it go down, if you see the size of it shrink and then get back and go like that, that means it's just runoff, seasonal runoff. But these are springs that are from deep down. A lot of them have trout hatcheries, fish hatcheries, trout, cold water fish, because trout love ice cold water, and then they run them to Denver or whatever the Crystal Lake Fish Hatchery. The guy told me, I was there. My son David and I visited. I've seen Roaring River in near Cassville, Missouri, Bennett Springs, and Crystal Lake Fish Hatchery. 3 of them I've been to, at least the 3 that I remember. At Crystal Lake, the guy said, yeah, it used to take us 18 hours to make that drive to Denver. We got it down to 16, and we got it down to 14. He says, we can make it in 12 hours now. And I'm thinking, wow, they load them trucks up with fish, and it's a pedal to the metal, They probably got excess fuel tanks and pee in the truck bottles and the whole 9 yards. I mean, so maybe they don't stop for fuel the whole run. Just hammer it down, buddy. We're going to do what they say can't be done. Got a long way to go and a short time to get there. We're going to make old Bandit run. Alrighty, so here we go. Pure water spilling from the rock itself, there is an elemental quality to the idea, particularly to flatlanders. Pure water spilling from the rock itself, there's an elemental quality to the idea, particularly to flatlanders. There is something enchanting about Ozark Springs. The scene of water boiling up from the earth itself, as at Greer Spring, Plate 2, or cascading from beneath a high rock bluff, as at Turner Spring, tends to conjure up a variety of images. And I've been at Bennett Springs, and Bennett Springs is, in one direction, this is pretty well level land. There's nothing there. It's just pasture and fences and whatever, farm. And then there's this big, gigantic hole in the ground. And that's where the river comes up, out of the ground. And it is a river. It's a river. It's huge. It's huge. It's a river. It's ginormous. Greer Spring, which empties into the 11-Point River and just about doubling that river's side, boils up on a cold February morning in our Oregon County, Missouri. So there you have, look up Oregon County, look up Shannon County, find yourself a spring, locate downstream from it. Downstream from it. Oh, I've been to 4. Hodgkin Mill. Look up Hodgkin Mill. They have a real pretty mill. You probably have bought flour or whatever from them. They don't do the milling at the mill anymore, but the mill's still there, and it looks like it would function. I mean, I was just amazed, the preservation, the state of preservation. It looks like if you took the lock off the gate and pulled the lever, the thing would start turning, you know. And all it is it's not even a fish hatchery, which also really amazed me. Why downstream from it there's not a fish hatchery? All it is it's pretty, and it's a nice place for picnics and wedding and photo ops, you know. About it. So I thought it was very strange. Images of creation itself, half-remembered lessons of Moses in the desert, legends of magic waters from old Celtic and Japanese mythologies. Understanding the mechanics of springs does little to remove the sense of magic. Who understands the mechanics of them? You know, I'm sorry, they don't. The Ozark Mountains are made up mostly of limestone. After enough years, limestone erodes in odd patterns, creating, and there's a witch hazel is an early herald of an Ozark spring. I'm not familiar with witch hazel, but you get witch hazel stuff, and then they're going to show a picture of a watercress, yeah. Okay, odd patterns creating fissures and sinkholes that swallow up rainwater as if it were never there. Gravity pushes that water lower and lower into caverns, underground stream beds. Okay, so it's going lower and lower and lower. This is the story they're telling you here. Where it courses along. Millions of gallons of rainwater hidden far below the surface, lost rivers. Now that's true. You know, you do have lost rivers. They go down underground. And of course, it's going to be cold down there, really cold, and that may be the only thing now. Now, then it says, eventually fissures occur in the ceilings of these lost rivers. When that happens, the river boils up out of the mountain itself. A spring is born. Water seeks its own level. So if your water goes down, right, and then it flows along, and it's going to have to go downhill, water flows downhill, it's going to keep going deeper and deeper, and then suddenly there's a crack in the ceiling. And the pressure would do it, because you're having millions of tons of water, and then it's pushing, and it would crack and come up. So yeah, I could see that. And their plate for a freshwater spring is still used by locals near Canaan, Searcy County. Okay. Near Canaan. Mount Nebo, Mount Olive, Mount Zion. Yeah. We will know where the ark is by the names of the towns around it. So you got Searcy County. Come on, class. What's the other two? So, Shannon and Oregon County. So, keep track of those. I think it's that's a brilliant idea. I wish I'd have thought of that. Art. Okay, before the days of water towers, pumping stations, and harness electricity, springs were places of great importance, first to Native Americans, then to European settlers. Native Americans considered springs culturally and spiritually significant, seeing more in the cold running water than a place to water horses. European immigrants built mills. Now that's a picture of watercress, and that is, if you have watercress growing near a spring, watercress grows prolifically, although concerns of water purity guard against its consumption. Well, if watercress is growing, that is an indication, according to naturalists, that the water is clean and good. And like, how dirty is it going to be? It's been filtered, it's been jostled, it's structured, the structured water. I guarantee you that from being ice cold and having been energized. There's a lot of watercress at the church camp where we do feast days. And the one time when I got the call and there was no running water, there was no bathroom, no shower, no nothing. We went down to the spring and got water right out of the little pipe that they were rigging up there. Today, a few Ozark springs continue to supply pure water. Plate 4. Which one that is, I don't know. Many old mills, such as Alley Spring Mill, that's the one here, probably another picture here maybe, testament to the days when the community still revolved around something as simple as flowing water and ground corn. Gee, you think? This is what I'm trying to get across is you have a township. The entire United States, understand this, is gridded out in townships. Look at a map. Get a county map and look at it. Let's say if you're looking at it from here. Let's say here's Cedar County. Okay. The top northwest corner is where number 1, Township 1, blah, 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 tract, whatever. And then it goes to the east and to the south. And then, I don't know if all counties are situated like that, but a township is somewhere, is a place to which you can walk in a day and get home in a day. Walk to it and home. Or they can send out messages, walk out to the farm and come back in a day. A riding, basically, is a county where you can ride a horse in a day and back home in a day. Or send messages out and get back in one day. So the old thing goes, Well-Fed Neighbor Alliance, one of Galen's visions was to develop a manual for county restoration. It's called the County Restoration Manual. Look it up online, download it, read it. It talks about that, ridings and marches and ridings. Okay, so very, very powerful concept. The entire United States is gridded out in townships. Most counties have about 9 townships. Cedar County, I believe, has 9. Okay, you got Stockton, you've got El Dorado Springs, you've got Jericho Springs, Cedar Springs, Springs, so, different. Olympia, I don't know what I think Olympia is one of them. So, anyway, community. A township is a community, and that's what you need to look at. Where can I live where I'm going to be within walking distance, if it comes down to it, of good people? You don't want to be where you are the outsider and they hate you. Don't do that. Okay, what are the rules of stupid? I covered this in another video. I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it repeatedly. Watch Active Self-Protection with John Correa. It's videos of security cameras around the world of incidents, shooting, knife, stabbing, machetes, you name it. Come on. Ooh, that's irritating. Okay, let's turn it down. Oh, I hate these things. You gotta read whether it says swipe or tap, and it said swipe, and I was swiping, and it wouldn't work. Okay, anyway. So the idea is, and the situation was, the guy with cerebral palsy goes to the convenience store to get something that he felt like he had to have at 2:30 to 3 o'clock in the morning. Okay. Now, John said several things happened, but he said, I'm not making fun of the guy, but the rules of stupid are, don't go to stupid places where there are stupid people at stupid times and do stupid things. Now, the guy, he's slow, and this guy came out and make fun of him, and then he slugs him. Well, I didn't say this in the video, but they found the guy that hit the guy, and the judge threw the book at him. He is going to be in prison for a long time. And all he did was hit the guy. But the judge was just livid about the fact that the man was, cerebral palsy. It's all caught on camera. The guy did it on, it's like, done deal. You're going to prison. Cool. 2 thumbs up. So, but the cerebral palsy guy, and he's pretty hefty, and it didn't knock him down. But just the idea that the guy did it, But when the guy comes out and he starts, making fun of him, walking funny, the guy just stood there listening and looking at him instead of just saying, "Hey, I'm sorry, I have a problem," and get in his truck and get out of there. Distance, keep distance. I'm going to deal with that. I'm going to read a passage sometime from the Bandit 6. All right. Last Centurion, about distance, comfortable distance, and Americans have a longer, they keep you further away. Well, come a pandemic time, that's going to be very handy, and I want to deal with that. You can increase that distance just by the fact of keeping a salt pipe on your person if there's a pandemic. Gas mask, yeah, a dust mask dipped in a salt solution. Let it dry, put that on. You're doubling. You're not only doing a filtration thing, but you're doing a negative ion thing. And salt kills bad things. Salt preserves life. We read about the guy in the last article about his mother was well preserved. She ate tons of salt, and lived to be 95. Everybody else in the family was dead. Everybody else in the community was dead, but she ate a heck of a lot of salt. So, active self-protection. Rules are stupid. Don't do the rules are stupid. And when you do one of them, and then two of them, and then three of them, and then four of them, bad things happen. Okay? So, and that is going to apply to people in transition. One of the biggest things he talks about is when you're in a transitional situation, be aware. And if you're going to be relocating, you're going to be the whole trip is going to be transition. You've got to be alert. You've got to be aware of your surroundings. You've got to be looking over your shoulder. You've got to be a bit more than a bit suspicious. You've got to be watching out and watching your back. Preferably have somebody watch your back. Somebody that will watch your back. So, yeah. Cover your ASP. Active self-protection. Watch them videos and learn the rules of stupid and beat them into your head. Because they are going to apply. Like my granddaughter said, "Grandpa, you beat yourself up too much over, worrying about people dying." She's in the Tower of Siloam. Jesus said, "Fell on the just and the unjust, Grandpa." Judgment's coming. We can't, it's going to happen. Bad people are going to die. And some good people are going to die. They were good people, Grandpa. They were just dumb people. Don't be dumb people. Don't do stupid. There is no supernatural. Well, there is no, there's not going to be, what am I trying to say? There's no guarantee that if you break a lot of rules, a lot of laws, that you're going to be miraculously protected somehow. If you keep doing stupid stuff, eventually it's going to catch up with you. I hope that makes sense. I'm not trying to be trite. I'm not trying to be, what do you call it, blasphemous or anything. That's just the way it is. If you constantly walk up to the edge of the building and, walk along it, sooner or later you're going to slip and you might fall off. And when you fall off, probably the law of gravity, of electromagnetic attraction between two bodies is going to come into play, and you're going to go splat, and you may not survive that. So anyway, I mean, the best way to say it is the joke. The guy that the flood was coming, and and the sheriff patrol drove around and said, "Hey, evacuate." And the guy said, "No, the Lord's going to protect me." The sheriff came by in the canoe and said, or the boat, and said, "Hey, the water's rising. You need to get out of here." "Nope, the Lord will take care of me." He's on the top of the roof, and the chopper comes by, and, "Hey, you want to, nope, the Lord's going to protect me." And the guy dies and goes to heaven, And what are you doing here? You're not due to check in until 2075. And, Well, Lord, you said I thought, I told everybody you were going to protect me. And he goes, what do you expect, man? I sent you the car and the boat and the chopper, So don't do stupid. And you're in transition. Be aware of covering your ASP, your active self-protection. All right. Moving right along. Bunny trail, bunny trail, bunny trail, bunny trail. Fishers, a spring is born. Today, if you something simple as flowing water and ground corn. Oh, yeah, townships. Despite the changes in the world around us, the old OzArks springs tend to take us back to a simpler time and place. Another time, another place. Yeah. I got to get back to that series. I'm going to keep doing those. We're going to be visiting different people in different places and times around the world. Watercress still abounds in the old mill ponds and streams. On the stream banks, witch hazel still blooms each February. The spring of the summer sky, now blue spring, now still churns water from a cavernous well 300 feet deep. And for a moment, all can seem right with the world. Water equals life. Without water, you will not have the capability of surviving. And like I said, this Vietnam vet friend of mine told me, he said, Derry, there will be no water accessible in the West by and large. They will control it. At a place where we used to hunt all the time, Brown's Canyon, which is where you take your canoe or your raft out before it hits the rapids. This is on the Arkansas River, and it eventually goes through the Royal Gorge. If you don't take your canoe or your raft out there, hopefully, for your family's sake, they get kayakers willing to go in and find your body, because you ain't coming out alive, period, end of story. Anyway, we used to camp there. We rafted there, messed around, hunted, had a great time, camped. Completely off limits now, controlling the water through, we got to preserve the green, blah, 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 for the poor animals. And, there's too much human incursion, and humans are bad and they're evil and the animals are good. And we're going to, take care of the animals, and you humans can't have access to that river anymore. And he said if they need to drop dog turd sensors from 30,000 feet, carpet bomb it with dog turd sensors, they'll do it, seismic sensors, and then shell the place. But, there will be no water available by and large in the West. So, not to support the populations that's out there. There isn't now. And they're fracking and poisoning half the water that is there. They poisoned 3 billion gallons, acre feet or gallons of water in California, fracking and messing around, so nuts. All right, that's it. This is Jerry Diamond with How to Get Out of Babylon. If you're listening to this, you are the remnant.